If Alabama keeps going like this, Kalen DeBoer should not make it to the end of the season. Plus, LSU a huge win. Weird day in the SEC because Arch Manning looked terrible. Utah looks back. Oh, what a day.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day and post-college football viewing. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, craziest, least predictable sport on planet Earth. Tons to get to on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to my everydayers out there who are probably as excited to have football back as I am. Kalen DeBoer can't be excited about what he saw on the field. This is embarrassing. This is straight up embarrassing. This is the University of Alabama. You have gone from the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport to now you are at the point where already in year two, you're coaching for your job. Year one was a failure. It shouldn't have been that hard to just make the playoff. I didn't expect a national championship in year one. I don't expect a national championship in year two. I don't even know if year three you can expect a title. You should expect to be in that conversation. How far does Alabama feel from that conversation? They feel to me like they are going backwards. Kalen DeBoer is 9-5 in his career so far as Alabama's head coach. His last two games are losses to a well below average Michigan team compared to what their actual standards are. They were fine, whatever. They pulled a dramatic upset of Ohio State last year. Okay. And now a loss to Florida State. I'll get to Florida State. I have to apologize to the Seminoles, it looks like. We'll reserve judgment for the entire season. But boy, Mike Norvell turned things around in a hurry. Kalen DeBoer is going in the wrong direction. It's not just that Alabama has lost 4 times in the Kalen DeBoer era as a 14-plus point favorite. Nick Saban was 131-2 in those sorts of games. It's not just that Ty Simpson is a talented guy who's been sitting patiently waiting his turn and looked completely lost on Saturday afternoon in Tallahassee. No, it's that Alabama doesn't look like a well-coached football team. They have no ability to run the football. They've got a first-round pick on the offensive line and 1 or 2 other NFL players. I don't know exactly what the problem is there, but they haven't been able to put that together. And the offense doesn't look like it has any cohesion or identity. It looks like they're waiting on guys to just make unbelievable individual plays. There's no fluidity. And then they don't do the little things well. There was a moment in this game. Alabama was down by 7 in the second half. They were coming back. There was a 2nd and 10. And they tackled Thomas Castellanos for basically no gain on the play. And then they got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because they hit him late when he was already on the ground, 15 yards, and then Florida State goes down and winds up scoring. That sequence is emblematic of what we have seen. The Crimson Tide are not just going in the wrong direction under Kalen DeBoer right now. He needs to turn this thing around quickly. You can't miss the playoff in the 12-team era 2 years in a row at Alabama. The fans will revolt, and I'm not going to blame them whatsoever. Any negative feelings you have as an Alabama fan towards Kalen DeBoer are completely valid. You had an entire offseason, right? Last year, year one, all right, let's give some grace still. It should have been better than that, but you know what? It's year one. This is Alabama. You have more talent on your roster than Florida State. Thomas Castellanos threw the ball 14 times. He only completed 9 of them for 152 yards, and you just got your clocks cleaned by 14 points against a team that last year went 2-10? One of their 2 wins was Charleston Southern. I know they brought in a bunch of portal guys and they have a more talented roster. Guess what? They did that last year too, and it was a complete and total mess. Alabama is getting outplayed. They're getting outcoached. They look sloppy. They don't do the little things well. They can't run the football. They're bad situationally. Like, there's nothing about Alabama that I feel like you can watch right now and think, oh, well, at least they do this really well. What's the thing? What is the one thing? Third down on offense, they're not any good. Florida State was only 5 of 12 on third down, but 2 of 2 on fourth down in this game. They outgained Alabama despite passing for 150 yards. Has Kalen DeBoer just made the wrong hire at defense coordinator here? Is that all it is? Doesn't look like it's all it is. I mean, that might be the case because there's no world in which you should allow Thomas Castellanos, who goes and talks smack about your program in the summertime, and we're all going, dude, what are you doing? They're about to beat you by 20 to 30 points, and then you let him beat you? Man. It's embarrassingly bad football. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm curious, Alabama fans, how would you describe it? Because I don't know how else to see it. Like, this is going in the wrong direction more and more game after game. I owe an apology to the Florida State fans because I thought they'd be bad again this year. I thought they'd be better, but I had them power rated bottom third in the ACC. Well, I'm going to reserve judgment on declaring myself wrong there because Alabama might just be horrible. Every year, pretty much, there is a top 10 AP team in the preseason that finishes the year unranked. If Alabama keeps playing football like that, they're going to be that team. It is not going to just suddenly get easy. This was one of the games that Alabama was supposed to just get, not lose by 14. They get UL Monroe. They get Wisconsin, who's with a backup quarterback. All right, they'll be fine. At Georgia, you're not winning that game. Vanderbilt at home. Yeah, no way it could happen again, right? I don't know. Was there a way it happened the first time? Clearly, yeah. At Missouri. Tennessee looked good. At South Carolina. LSU. Oklahoma. Eastern Illinois. At Auburn. I don't see easy wins on that schedule for Alabama. Not if they play football like that. This has to change quickly. Bama has to figure out how they go 10-2. Because if they go 9-3 and miss the playoff, complaining about, oh, our 9-3 SEC team should get it. Nope, that's not going to be good enough. You should not operate on a margin that thin when you are the University of Alabama. So, yeah, the hot seat talk, if it's out there for Kalen DeBoer, incredibly warranted. Florida State. Oh, by the way, Bama, outright loser this week, by far on my 5-point scale. Outright lose, no vibe, lean win, outright win. There is no better feeling than Florida State that just had a program-altering victory, a game they were not supposed to win, that I didn't think they could win, that most didn't think they could win. I don't know if anyone even picked Florida State to win. I'm sure some picked them to cover out there. I think I saw that on game day this morning, by the way. Coach Corso, thank you for an incredible career. Thank you, Coach Corso. That was wonderful. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to watch so much of it. Anyway, back to the main thing here. Florida State should not have been able to win this game. They controlled it from the start. They were the better team for 4 quarters. That is a program-shifting win. Whatever happens with Alabama this year, this could wind up being, let's just take an example that involved Florida State last year, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech last year pulls a stunning upset to most of us because on paper, this roster over here is better than that one over there. And Georgia Tech wins. Georgia Tech doesn't go on to have a great season. They had a good year, though. They were a bowl team. They took a massive step forward, which set the stage for this season in which they are viewed by some, me and others, as a dark horse ACC title contender. That's what you're on the precipice of potentially doing, even if you look back one day this year and say, wow, Alabama actually turned out to not be very good. That win wasn't actually worth very much because look at where the Crimson Tide are doing. They're falling off. We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. There's no downside here for Florida State. There should be nothing but good vibes in Tallahassee, and there probably aren't because Mike Norvell just went out and got a new quarterback, got a new offensive coordinator, got a new defensive coordinator, and they were firing on all cylinders. They were winning situational battles with Alabama in this game. They were out scheming them. Alabama was 2 of 5 on fourth down and 6 of 17 on third down. That is a masterclass from Tony White, the former defensive coordinator at Nebraska. That is a really good hire from Mike Norvell. I didn't think it would start working that quickly. I didn't. Now the key is, how do you follow it up? Florida State's got some tough games on their schedule this year that suddenly look a lot more winnable than they did a couple of weeks ago. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. It was a weird week for the SEC. There were some highs. There were some. Alabama was a low. LSU, the highest of highs. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. We all love it. I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I've used Game Time myself, and I'm not kidding when I say that is my favorite part about it. I cannot stand seeing one price and then you go to check out, oh, we're going to tack on these 3 things at the end. Nope. With Game Time, what you see is actually what you pay. The all-in pricing feature, it's the best. It is the absolute best. It is one of many reasons to use Game Time, but seriously, from my own personal experience, and maybe I'm just a weirdo, that is my favorite part. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. What a victory for the LSU Tigers. Outright winners. Clemson Tigers, outright losers this week. Bottom of the barrel. You were at home. Brian Kelly hasn't won one of these things before in week 1, and you let him come in there and win a game on your home field, shut out in the second half with a future first-round pick, potential Heisman candidate at quarterback. Yikes. Major yikes. Brian Kelly hired Blake Baker last year, and they brought in the top-ranked transfer portal class in the country this cycle. Second-year DC with some legit talent. Boy, that looked good. That was an impressive defensive performance. 31 yards rushing. That's how many Clemson ended with in the game. Cade Klubnik, 19 of 38, 230 yards and a pick. Yeah, that'll do for LSU. Because this is not a game where I'm super concerned about style. I know what these quarterbacks can be. They're not going to struggle like this the rest of the year. They combined for 460 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Cade Klubnik had a QBR of 31. Nussmeier was much better at 82.6. Some of us, me, have been big Garrett Nussmeier fans since the season began. He went 28 of 38 in this game. Wasn't spectacular. Guess what? You just needed to find a way to win. This was a college football playoff level game. Just find a way to win. And trust that your veteran quarterbacks are going to be able down the road to get into the swing of things and be a bit more productive. But this was a slugfest. This was a high-level game. This is a great win for the SEC. The SEC, in a weird way, needed this game, and LSU gave it to them, and Brian Kelly needed this win. The 2 coaches in the SEC who I said had the most pressure on them of, frankly, anyone in college football that needed wins this week, got them. And they were both on the road. Hugh Freeze at Auburn, really good result for the Tigers there. All sorts of Tigers in the SEC. Over the Baylor Bears on the road, they controlled that game with the offensive line. The recruiting classes really looked like they showed up for Hugh Freeze. Well, the defensive coordinator moves and transfer portal moves that Brian Kelly made in the offseason really looked like they showed up on Saturday night in Death Valley. And for LSU to have only had 108 rushing yards in this game and to have won is impressive in and of itself. But just the fact that they found a way to win. This is a game that LSU's been finding a way to lose. But you know, a couple of years ago, if you hear people talk about that LSU team, they'll say, oh, they wasted Jaden Daniels. You know what? They did. They did. They missed a big opportunity with a Heisman Trophy winner who just led the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. It's how good that guy was. And guess what? If you had this caliber defense on that team, that's a national title contender. If you were able to put up this sort of performance in week 1, maybe it's just that offenses were sluggish. You know, I wasn't right in every single game, but most of the time when I told you, yeah, you should probably take the under here. Yeah, the unders were a big time winner, I think, this week. Games like LSU, Clemson, Baylor, Auburn admittedly was not. Ohio State, Texas went way under. Like, there were a lot of offenses that weren't quite firing on all cylinders. It's a long season. A lot can change between now and the end of the year. But for LSU to have found a way to win this game, really, really good. This is an outright win vibe for LSU all the way. All the way, the highest title you can get. Because not only did you just pick up a top 5 road win to bolster your resume to get into the college football playoff, you also, wait for it, what does that mean? Don't have a loss already. You're not fighting an uphill battle. That's what Clemson is now doing. So let me flip over and talk about the Clemson Tigers. Their schedule is not the easiest thing in the world. Even though it's in the ACC, they play Troy next week. That'll be win number 1. Then they go at Georgia Tech. To do this in front of their home fans, that is a poor showing. That crowd is one of the best in the country. It was a spectacular scene. I appreciate, by the way, I forgot to do this earlier. That's my round of applause for LSU and for Alabama for going on the road and playing these games. And for Texas, you get the same. Texas, oh boy. Yikes. Yikes, Texas. You look at this Clemson schedule. My preseason national title pick, didn't feel great about them after week 1. It's just week 1. But that game at Georgia Tech is now a monstrously important game. Clemson can overwhelm Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College, maybe even SMU, Duke, and Florida State. Though, look at what Florida State just did. We'll see. That stretch of games, I think Clemson is going to rebound and be all right. That Georgia Tech game, you better not mess around. Not on the road. Not in Atlanta. Brent Key is looking for that signature, we're here and we're legit win. That would be it. And it's going to be on his home turf. Home games, so much better than the neutral site games. No disrespect to the Tennessee-Syracuse crowd that flooded Atlanta with a bunch of orange. Does that spectacle at all compare to what we saw at Clemson? No. Enough with these neutral site games early in the year. It's patently ridiculous. Save it for college football playoff games. Seriously. Not all of them, but some of them, certainly. I cannot stand that. Tennessee, by the way, gets a lean win. I have no vibe there on Syracuse because that is how I expected the game to go, for Syracuse to lose and for Tennessee to cover. There were more points than I expected, but Joey Aguilar looked good. That's a good result for Tennessee. I'll have more of them next week. But bringing this back to Clemson, the middle part of their schedule, to me, is pretty workable. I think SMU could be a pullback team. We don't really know at this point. You have the stretch of 3 straight home games before you go at Louisville, host Furman. ACC, the SEC got rid of that, is going to get rid of that late season cupcake. You need to do it too. Clemson then will go at South Carolina. That South Carolina game, boy, there could be a lot on the line. There could be a playoff berth on the line. If Clemson isn't perfect for the rest of their schedule in the lead up to South Carolina, there is a real solid shot that their at-large playoff berth hopes are on the line. That is entirely feasible. And so their ACC championship hopes, maybe not. They could lose one ACC game, lose to South Carolina, get into the playoff at 10-3 with an automatic berth as they had last year. But if Clemson wants to make it without having to win a conference championship game that they were this close to losing, by the way, do you remember that crazy barn burner with SMU? Yeah, that sort of if you don't want to have to do that to get into the playoff again, Clemson has to go perfect from now until South Carolina. And then I think that resume will be good enough. Because remember, the committee said, we don't want to punish you a bunch for losing to good teams. Well, if LSU starts winning the rest of the year and playing this brand of football and Garrett Nussmeier gets the offense rolling, then yeah, that loss shouldn't be that punitive. You lost by 7. You did lose at home, so you should get punished a little bit more for that. But hey, lost to a good team. In the committee's own words, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's not nothing, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. So really disappointing look here for Clemson. I think most people were picking the Orange Tigers over the Bayou Bengals in this game. I was among them. And my spread picks in week 0 and week 1, 6-7. Not the start I was hoping to get off to, but frankly, I've had a lot worse. Clemson, on the other hand, oh boy. Now, they won the ACC last year, and Georgia housed them in week 1. It was like 34-3. So they have had worse starts than 17-10 against LSU. But boy, at home, that is a disappointing outcome for Dabo, Swinney, and company. And now, big old uphill battle to get in the playoff. Texas, man, did Arch Manning look horrible or what? First, this episode brought to you by Upside. College football fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true. Put in the code, started using it. It's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Check out. Start using. Do both with the Upside app and start saving today. I'm going to say a series of objectively true things whose intention is not designed to anger, annoy, cause disgust, or force rage comments, but might have that effect anyway. I'm just going to state a bunch of true things. You ready? Arch Manning looked horrible the entire game. Arch Manning was not ready for that moment. Arch Manning has been sitting for 2 years and let a lot of people down, with that being game 1. And had Texas stuck with Quinn Ewers for another year, which they could have done, Texas would be 1-0 and would be holding on to their top ranking in college football. Instead, they will fall after a 14-7 loss to Ohio State. And Arch Manning had a chance to make his early signature moment and flopped in the worst possible way. Second worst possible way. None of those things are false. Notice what I didn't say. Arch Manning can't be good. Arch Manning can't improve. Arch Manning is terrible for the rest of his career. Arch Manning is a bust. None of those things are true. We can't know if they are true. We can know that Arch is way more of an unfinished project than we thought he might be at this point. Because a guy who has shown better football in the starts we have seen, a guy who has been in the system for 2 years already, that has been working and waiting and preparing for his moment, looked completely lost. He was rushed. He tried to run too many times. The Ohio State defense is incredibly well coached. They're really good in the red zone. The quarterback sneak wasn't there. He tried it anyway. I put some of that on Arch. I put some of that on Steve Sarkisian as well. That just wasn't there. Flat out was not available, and we all knew it was coming, and so did Ohio State. So Arch Manning's mechanics are not consistent. I guess the reads were okay. Sometimes. That's the best I could say about the way he played. I guess the reads were okay. Because here's why I say second worst. The game did not end with an interception or Arch Manning, inexplicably fumbling the ball a la Jameis Winston in the 2014 Rose Bowl against Oregon. He fumbles the ball and nobody touched him. Okay, that would have been the worst way. The second worst way is you're driving down the field. You make a special, I mean special, throw down the sideline, and people go, whoa, Arch has got a chance. He threw a touchdown. Now he's made this dart. They're marching down the field. Oh, okay, well, it's a 3rd and 5. And you had 2 wide open guys that were less than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and you missed them both. That is the worst possible way you could have ended the game. I mean, what could have been worse? Texas could have not scored. They didn't for an entire half. Sark is usually great in the first half. We saw it last year with Quinn Ewers, and in the second half, they tended to slow down. Yeah, when you're that bad in the first half, do Texas's receivers need to get more separation? Yeah, they do. I don't think they did a great job of that. But I've watched this Steve Sarkisian system before. Looked a heck of a lot better when Quinn Ewers was at the helm. For all you wondering, last year when Quinn would make a mistake, why don't they put in Arch? Yeah, this would be why. I mean, easy throws. Easy throws. He couldn't make easy throws all day. He was making uncompetitive throws consistently. So this is a problem. Texas has an Arch Manning problem. And that's that in a year where they have a defense that, as we saw, I thought Julian Sayin looked good. And Ohio State winning that game, full props to Ryan Day. That's an outright win. This is an outright loss vibe for the Texas Longhorns unequivocally because of the way that it looked. Ordinarily, if you just lose this game by 7, I'd say, it's a lean lose because it's not good. You have a tougher road to the playoff, but holy smokes, you have so much work to do with Arch Manning. I did not think it would be this big of a construction project with him. That defense for Texas, though, just went on the road to the horseshoe and played well enough to beat the defending champs. And the offense couldn't put up 17 measly points. Yikes. I mean, yikes. That was bad. So, progress is required. It was always going to have some level of progress, but for it to be that much to where Arch needs to make the simple throws, where he needs to just hit some crossing routes in stride, that's what we're talking about? I can't believe it's what we're talking about, but we are. We absolutely are. So, serious issues there for Texas that can be corrected. Long season. There is just more work to be done than many, including myself, anticipated. I want to close with Utah because there's been a lot of SEC on the show, and I just had to sprinkle something else in there. By the way, the new Tua Tagovailoa is at Cal, apparently. That's what Oregon State learned. That was not one of my better predictions of the week, but Utah goes to UCLA in what was probably my best pick of the week. 43-10, the final score. Nico Iamaleava's debut at UCLA, a 10-point flop. I'm not surprised. I actually give UCLA a no vibe after that game. I thought Utah would win. I thought they would win big. This is a nice lean win outcome because Devin Dampier was 21-25 for 200 yards on the road against a Big Ten team. Is it a good Big Ten team? Nope. I think UCLA's 4-8 this year. But you weren't playing Southeast Missouri State Technical Institute. You were playing a semi-real team. You were playing them on the road, and Utah, 43 points. You didn't have that in the bag last year. Now, perhaps foolishly, I hope not, for the sake of my brethren fandom, is that the correct term? I don't know. I live in the state of Utah, so I'm surrounded by Utes fans everywhere that I go. I hope for their sake, for the good people that I encounter regularly in the Beehive State, that this is not a fluke, not a one-off, but that defense for Utah looked really good. 10 points. I'll take that. 43 points for an offense. Might not be that every week. But if it's 70 to 80% of that every single week, oh boy. The Utah that some were waiting for, that felt was inevitably going to arrive in the Big 12 and work to run the conference, that's what that Utah would look like right there. Just keep that in the back of your mind. More games tomorrow because college football is great and wonderful, and we have South Carolina and Virginia Tech, and the nightcap of Miami Notre Dame. Yes, reaction shows will go up on this very channel. Cannot wait. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.